Hello.
Welcome.
Welcome to Solutions with Courtney Anderson. And what we're doing in this episode is premiering a new series. This is our Law Lovers Lounge. Law Lovers Lounge series. And the idea here is that we love law. And this is a lounge because there are many rules and requirements that pertain to lawyers becoming licensed, maintaining their licenses, and then potentially violating the rules of their licensing. And so the big general issue is that if someone is you hire someone as your lawyer, then they have a lot of responsibility. Confidentiality, to maintain certain rules about any funds, client funds that they may come in contact with. I mean, it's a lot of requirements, right? But the big challenge is that sometimes there's confusion among the public about when is someone their lawyer, and it's happened to me untold amounts of times that someone has asked me a question, and the way they're asking it is basically they're asking me to be their lawyer for them, which is a nice compliment, and I many times would love to be their lawyer, but they often also want me to be their lawyer for them for free. And at a dinner party where I just met them socially, we're hanging out at a beauty shop, just it's so not appropriate. Meaning this. If someone's going to give you good legal advice, then they'd have to really invest the time to understand exactly what the details are of your situation. That would require time. And lawyers charge for their time because it's a service, right? And that's kind of all they have is their time and their mental process to assess what the challenge might be and then come up with a solution for you. And when I ran a traditional law office, I had in Austin, Texas, and I had, free consultations often or low-cost consultations because, I need somebody to come and they would sit in my office at the appointment and we would talk about what their issue was or their perception of their issue. And sometimes they didn't even have a real legal problem. It might have been something else. But at this point, I'm not running a traditional law office right now. I have recently launched a virtual law office. And that's at litigationmitigation.com, so law office of Courtney Anderson. And I am a lawyer, and I'm a proud lawyer. I'm surprised. I've been practicing since 1998. So the challenge is that if somebody asks me in a setting where I'm not at I'm not practicing law, and then I'm not the real lawyer, right? Then I can't give you good advice. Meaning, if you just sort of generically ask me a question, I'll give you a generic answer. And then if you went and relied on that and then said, oh, I talked to this lawyer at the beauty salon or the dinner party, or, she was a friend of my cousin's and, she said such and such. And it's like, yeah, but that was general advice. I don't know anything about your details, right? I can't diagnose it. So all that's to say that when you look at this episode and this whole series, which I'm hopeful about, because the whole purpose of the entire show, Solutions with Courtney Anderson, is to sort of, one, I get to have fun and have a platform for all of the different things that I, thinking about or pondering or exploring or, dealing with in a professional setting. So that's part of it. But the other thing is I am trying to provide solutions, and there's a lot of misunderstandings about legal issues. So this is a general educational experience. It's a lounge. That's why it's relaxed. I'm not your lawyer. And the only people who I am their lawyers, people who have come to my law office and literally hired me. They've paid fees for legal services and they signed a legal contract. And then I'm your lawyer and I have all these responsibilities. I also am the lawyer for people on some pro bono cases, which is a fancy way of saying cases I do where I don't charge money, but I do those. Now I only do them in Nevada and in Las Vegas area under the legal aid agency authority, and I am their lawyer too. But it's the same type of thing. I'm their lawyer. There's paperwork. I represent you in a case, okay? But absent that, I'm not your lawyer. I'm just a lawyer. and I'm trying to give general information, but I'm not your lawyer. So, woo! Those disclaimers took a lot of time. So here we are in our Law Lovers Lounge. In the episode description, I spent a little bit of time talking about sort of the idea behind this. Again, it's all about solutions and trying to make people's lives better, easier, faster, more content. And a lot of the sort of basic misconceptions about legal issues, I just have heard enough over the years that I know there's room for an educational opportunity like this. And so I'm going to give it my best shot. The overview for the episode also sort of tried to explain why we love law. Why are we law lovers? Why are we law lovers? We're law lovers because when we look at what happens absent laws, right, where there's no rule of law, either there's no literal rule, like there's nothing that's been codified, meaning there's nothing written down, right? It's just some people somewhere in a society and they don't have any formal, written rule. Okay, fine. Or they don't have any rules in practice. So sometimes there are places where there are no written rules, but maybe there's a tribal hierarchy and there are rules, right? Like there is, a chief or someone who was determined to be the arbiter of decisions if there's a conflict. And there are rules. They're not written down in a book somewhere, but everybody knows what the rules are in that group. On the other side of the spectrum, we have societies where there's a whole bunch of laws written down on books. You can go read them. Now you can go read them online, but you go to these countries or you're there in real life and everybody knows that they don't mean anything. They're just words on a piece of paper, but in real life, they're either not enough lawyers or there's so much corruption that, there's nothing impartial and everybody knows it. So it's both of those situations where there's literally just no rule at all, whether it's either written or just sort of known by tradition, or where there's a pretend rule. And everybody's got stuff written down on paper, but really in real life it doesn't function. Everybody knows it, right? Because it's all about, literally you pay off somebody a bribe, or if you're not born into the right religious group or social group or ethnic group or, whatever, like then you don't have any power. And when you have that happen, then you get just complete frustration in people's daily lives, and then you get really bad outcomes because you don't have any way to solve problems, right? So you live in one of these systems where there really is no functioning law or no law at all, either in practice or in theory or both. You go and you're going to buy a car and, you drive it around, it looks like it runs. The person selling the car tells you, oh, yeah, it runs well, it's never had a problem. And then you give them money and you take the car home, and then, 3 hours later, the thing catches on fire, and it turns out that it, had been, in a flood, and it had bad parts, and it was a disaster, right? They sold you something that was garbage. And what can you do? If you don't have a functional legal system that works, right, where you can go down and do something to make them pay you your money back, or, which in a lot of parts of the world we have small claims or justice courts where people can just go themselves and pay a little bit of money and then take somebody to court, right? You don't have to hire a lawyer. It's not it's not super formal. But in a lot of parts of the world, you can't really do that. I mean, you can file paperwork, but, it's going to be either thrown in the trash or the corruption, or it'll just sit somewhere in a room for, 10 years and nothing will ever be done. So when people know they don't have a system to rely on, then they turn to what we all would do as individuals, right? I'm going to take the, quote, law into my own hands, because who are you to cheat me? And you get a lot of instability, and you get a lot of conflict, and, sometimes violence, and it's just a very high-stress way to live. So that's why we love law. We love law. And I'll do some more shows in this series, and we'll see how it goes. But one of the things is, there's so many examples when people don't realize how much they rely, right, on the law. When you go to a dentist or a doctor, you look and see a license on the wall. You hope. Some people don't even do that, but you assume if it says, doctor, that they're a real doctor. And there's stuff in the media constantly all over the world, even in the U.S. and everywhere, where there's somebody who wasn't really a doctor, and they either lied or pretended, and then they injected something in somebody. A lot of times these cosmetic type things, and then the people, it's not funny. They're disfigured or they're killed. So none of us have the time to go around everywhere in the whole world checking. Is that a real doctor? Is that chicken safe to eat? Does that car really work? I don't know. So that's why you build these systems, so that you can go out and have some confidence that there's some degree of certainty. And then when things go wrong, somebody was a fraud or somebody did cheat, not follow the rules, then there's a consequence to them, right? To make them stop doing it. Otherwise, if there's no consequence, then people are just going to, not everyone. Some people are going to just try to do, quote, the right thing, the ethical thing, which is also debatable. But a lot of people are just going to do whatever they can and get money and power and do whatever they want. And if there's no consequence, there's no legal way to stop them or punish them, then they're just going to get out there and the world's going to be very difficult for people to navigate. So all that's to say we love law. Yay! We're here in our lounge. Yay! I'm giving general advice. Yes, again, I am a lawyer, not your lawyer, unless you in the future came to my law firm and then signed a contract with me for legal services, or signed a contract with me for legal services through one of my pro bono providers. Okay, all that aside, the topic is, does a power of attorney have any real power? So this series is sort of aimed at very general educational overview, right? Okay, so kind of the big question. First of all, what is a power of attorney? What is that thing? I've had a couple of situations recently where this has come up, which is why I picked this for the show. One person was telling me that they had a power of attorney. And then they're talking, and then they tell me that the person they had the power of attorney on was a relative, right? But that the person was dead. Like currently right now the person is dead. So the person I'm talking to is saying, yeah, I have a power of attorney, And so I'm listening and I'm thinking, yeah, but you just said they're dead, right? And they've been dead for a couple of years. Okay, so the person kept trying to say to me, well, I have the power of attorney. And basically they were saying because they had this power of attorney that they wanted to sell like a house that the person who'd passed away, their deceased relative, had. They wanted to sell it. And they were going to try to do it with this, quote, power of attorney, which there's so much wrong with that. That's part of the reason we're having the show. All right. What is a power of attorney? Power of attorney is a piece of paper. In some places, you can have a piece of power of attorney. It doesn't have to be written down. But I am licensed and practice for profit, my law firm, in Texas. So the advice I'm going to be giving is Texas specific, okay? Because every state and jurisdiction, and of course every country, has their own little specific rules. But the big picture, bottom line is this. Humans have the ability to make decisions, right? Okay. But there are some times when we're unable to make a decision. So it might be that I am out of the country. I've gone out of the country on a big, long, extended, trip. Maybe it's for work. Maybe it's for, personal time. And so I want to make sure that somebody can make decisions for me while I'm out of the country, because stuff still might happen, back at the other place where I'm not there. Maybe a pipe bursts in my house and somebody's got to decide, how much to pay a plumber and what to do to get it fixed, right? So humans make decisions. There are times when I'm unable to make a decision. It might be because I am not available, like I'm just not physically there. It might be that I have a lot on my plate and I'm unable to handle, this type of decision that needs to be made. So a power of attorney is a concept where I am a human and I'm going to give someone else the ability to make my decisions that I would normally only be able to make for myself. Okay. Power of attorney is an idea, right? Humans make decisions. I'm making all kinds of decisions right now, right? Okay, what am I going to spend? Am I going to pay that bill? Am I going to listen to what the doctor tells me? How would I take care of children? How would I make decisions at a business? I mean, I'm making all types of decisions, right? Normally, I'm the only one that has the ability to make a decision. How am I going to spend my money? How am I going to take my medicine that the doctor said? Should my children have this type of help? With this decision about my children. Okay, so normally I'm the only one that makes that decision. Okay, there are times though when I either think I might not be able to make a decision in the future, maybe because I'm going to be out of town, or I have so much going on and other things in my life, I can't handle some decisions about, my business or dealing with some other things. And I'm going to take only one that normally can make decisions about, and I'm going to give another entity, okay, a person, the ability to make those decisions. So somebody else is going to be able to decide, how much money should I spend on getting that plumbing fixed for the leak in the house? Should I pay that credit card bill? Oh my goodness! The child has slipped and fell at the playground. What should we do? The doctor is asking us what we want to do. Okay, these are decisions that I would be able to make for myself or for a minor dependent, right? That I'm the only one that can make them. But I'm going to go ahead and use this thing called the power of attorney, and I'm going to give another person the power to make these decisions. That's what it is. In Texas, they're in writing. So you got to literally, it's a piece of paper, and it's called at the top power of attorney, right? And in jurisdictions around the world, it'll differ. Like I said, some places will let you maybe do one just orally. But here's the big deal. A power of attorney is me taking things that are only my ability to decide, and I'm going to give another person the ability to make decisions. Now, that's a big deal. Let's just let this sit for a second. This is a really, really big deal, right? Because I'm deciding, am I going to take that $74 I have in the bank and pay my credit card bill, or am I going to use that to, buy medicine for my child? Now, normally, I'm the one that would make that decision, but I'm going to give the power of attorney, which is either writing it down on a piece of paper, and even if you live in a place where they'll, in theory, accept an oral power of attorney, which is literally you just say to somebody, I'm giving you my power of attorney, the ability to make my decisions, I would still write it down. Here's why. If you give somebody else this thing called the power of attorney, it is extremely powerful, to answer the question of the episode title. Does it have any power? Yeah. It has all the power. The person that you're giving it to, the entity you're giving it to, has literally the ability to step in your shoes and be you. They're making these decisions that literally only you could make. Wow, that's a big deal. They're going to sign checks. They can make financial decisions. That's just everything right there, right? They can, buy property, sell your property. They can make healthcare decisions. Are we going to agree to that one surgery, or are we going to, wait a few days? Who's going to make the decision? Okay. So big picture, the power of attorney is you're going to take the power that only you possess, right? And you're going to give some or all of it to another person, another entity. My strong advice is that you really think through this, because you can just imagine already where the story is going, right? The fraud and the abuse and the theft and the just outright borderline awful things that people do to each other. You see it, right? Because if I give you a power of attorney over me, right, and you have the ability to go and sign checks and move my money around at the bank and to sell my house or whatever, then you can just take it all. Now, here's the thing. You're not supposed to. When somebody is given the power of attorney, they're supposed to be a fiduciary. There's a fiduciary duty. What does that mean? It comes up all the time in my business classes I teach, and also for the corporate training. A fiduciary is someone, they have a responsibility, right, to the other person. So if I'm your fiduciary, I have a responsibility of fairness. I have a responsibility to make a decision that would be the best decision for you. That's the idea, right? Because I'm stepping in your life, making your decision. So in theory, I'm supposed to act in your best interest. I'm your agent. An agent means that I have the authority to represent you and make decisions, right? So power of attorney is a type of agency, that they're really, really powerful, and they become abused because I think, A, people don't understand what they mean, and then B, people just take advantage of other people. So the idea is a good idea. The power of attorney, when used the right way, works like this. All of us are limited in our ability to sustain, to the best of our knowledge, who we are, as this in this body we're in right now, in this, in this life. So we'll create a power of attorney because we know I could be, out of town, I could be unavailable, too busy, or I could be, I could become disabled, maybe even temporarily, right? Like I fell down and I hit my head and not severely, and so, but for a few days my head hurt, and so I needed somebody to make some decisions during those 2 days. So you take the decision while you have capacity. What does that mean? Okay, you have to have the ability, right, to give the power away. You have to be sound, right, mentally. And meaning if you yourself are under some sort of condition where you can't make your own decision, right? So, you're not able to decide should you pay your house note. You're not able to decide what's the right thing for your child. It might be, a disability or a condition of any duration. Then you can't at that time create a power of attorney because you yourself can't make your own decision, right? I'm sitting here right now, and oh my goodness, I'm suffering from some condition. I'm unable to make decisions. I'm not even able to decide for myself what's going on. I don't even know what day it is, right? I'm suffering from a condition right now. I can't give you a power of attorney that's valid right now because I don't know what's going on. And this is where you see a lot of fraud, where people see, oh, look, there's, elderly Aunt Sarah, and she doesn't know what's going on, but wow, she has that really nice house, and we'll go over there and get her to give us a power of attorney, and then we can go to the bank and sign all her checks and pull her money out and do whatever we want. And that is fraud, and it's absolutely illegal. You can only give the power of attorney when you're in your capacity mentally to make your decisions, right? That just makes common sense. And I hate that phrase, but if I'm not able to make decisions, you can't go ahead and give somebody else your power. If you're able to make decisions, then you can go ahead and give someone your power. So while you have the capacity, you go ahead. I strongly recommend putting it in writing, and then you think, okay, if something happened to me, then who would I trust to make decisions? Okay. And in general, there used to be the idea that you would give a power of attorney, and then it would, like, let's say you said, you wrote the power of attorney starting on, January 10th. The power of attorney is going to be effective because that's, when I'm leaving the country, and it's going to be for, my closest person in my life, Fred Smith, and it'll give Fred Smith the ability to make decisions, for me while I'm, between the 10th of January and the 30th. Okay. Now, I can structure that. That's fine. There used to be the idea that if I lost capacity, okay, so I write the piece of paper giving you some of my power. At that time, I totally have the ability to make my decisions. I have capacity. I'm completely lucid. Everything's fine. But the idea used to be that if I later lost my ability to make decisions, then the power of attorney would also lose its power. Remember, ideally what happens is it's a piece of paper, and the person that you give it to, right, the person who receives it, who's now your agent, or sometimes they call them your attorney in fact, that person now can take the piece of paper and go to your bank and be like, hey, I'm their power of attorney. Go ahead and I'm going to pull out their money right now. Give me a debit card. I'm going to start making decisions. That's a powerful thing. They can go, call a realtor and sell your house, right? With just that piece of paper. I mean, this is a big deal. So the idea used to be that if something happened to take away my power after I'd already given a valid power of attorney, then the power of attorney would cease to have power. So in Texas, they came up with this idea called the durable power of attorney. And that just means it's what it sounds like, durable. It's going to last. So the power of attorney begins to have power as soon as it's created. Now, it may have, in the creation of it, it might say that it's only going to kick in, right? It's only going to start on, January 10th, and today might be January 2nd. But if I don't put that duration in there, then it's going to have power immediately. Sometimes the power of attorney will say that it has power, but the power doesn't vest, meaning that the person can't actually do anything with it until I become unable. So it might be, and this is very common, I'm thinking ahead, right? I'm a smart person. I'm thinking ahead. I'm a planner. I'm proactive, not reactive. And so I'm thinking, look, anything could happen to me. Let me go ahead now while I totally have the authority and ability to make decisions for myself and decide who would be the person to make my decisions financially and potentially for my health care, right? Let's say I'm in a car accident. I'm unable to speak, and the doctors are asking, what do we do? Do you approve this risky operation, or do you want us to just go ahead and wait and see if medication works? That's the kind of thing, right? So a durable power of attorney is the statutory in Texas, meaning that's what the government there has decided. It literally says on the top of it, and I even pulled out for the show some power of attorneys. I'm going to look and see and probably go ahead and find a way to get these either on my law firm website or put a link to it on mycourtneyanderson.com so you can actually see these templates, because I think it'll really help you. So you'll have your ability to look and see this, right? So the statutory durable power of attorney, I'm literally reading it right now. It says that at the top. That's how you know what it is. And it basically has a list of powers. It just says that you put down your name and then what county you live in and what city, and then you name the person that you're given your power. And then on the form in Texas, they have a list, and you can either cross things out, right? If you don't want the person to have the power. So it says things like real property transactions, stock and bond transactions, personal family maintenance, retirement plans, tax matters. A lot of big stuff is on here. And you can go through and either, leave it all like it is so they can make all these decisions, or you can go through and cross stuff out. Maybe you only want them to be able to make one type of decision or two types. It's up to you. It's your world. You do what you want. Okay. All right. So it talks about the idea in Texas that this power of attorney, okay, the statutory durable one, it becomes effective upon my disability or incapacity. Okay, so the whole idea is right now I'm able to make my decisions, so you don't need to. But if something happens to trigger me not being able to make my decisions, I could be disabled, I could be incapacitated, or again, you also could just be a situation where you're not going to, be in the geographic area, or you just know you're going to be too busy. It's up to you. You can structure these things. But something has to trigger the fact that you're not able to make the decision or willing, and now the other person can. So when that happens, okay, when that happens and they take a piece of paper and go do with it whatever you wanted to, they step in. So how do you get one? The answer is it's a piece of paper. So some lawyer somewhere draws it up because it has to be in compliance with the legal requirements of your jurisdiction. But now there's so much, proliferation of self-help, internet stuff, which can be good. Look, if you know what you're doing, then the ability to go out there and find different types of really defined legal services is helpful. And I've done that in my firm where we've moved to those types of services. But if you don't know what you're doing at all, then you need to talk to a lawyer. Okay. So how do you get one? It's a piece of paper. So you can either, get it from a lawyer if you need it or get it, sort of generically. You could write your own if you just went and read the law. It's not anything magical. Does it have power? We've been going over it. It's everything. And you can be destroyed, financially, emotionally, if you don't pay attention. They end when your life ends, which I said at the start of the show that somebody was telling me they had a power of attorney, but the person was dead. Well, the moment you die, then there's no more power of attorney. It goes away. And that's when your will kicks in, right? So this I hope is helpful. Come to CourtneyAnderson.com, and thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it.